AJ writes into Podcast Beyond and says, Beyond.
Beyond.
With all the GTA 5 and next-gen talk, I feel games like Puppeteer and Killzone Mercenary got a bit ignored by the Podcast Beyond crew. Understandable.
No way,
Can you
I didn't
spend some
ignore it.
time sharing your thoughts on these games? I think Puppeteer is easily one of the best platforms of this generation.
Yeah, Puppeteer. I haven't finished Puppeteer, but Puppeteer's
Puppeteer's
fantastic.
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm too busy to play Puppeteer.
Puppeteer is the only game I ever walked by Colin's desk and saw him with a grin on his face playing.
Yeah, that's...
It's
As opposed to a scowl that he normally has.
I mean, you had like childlike delight on your face while you were playing that.
Puppeteer is a really special game.
Get on your soapbox. What's Puppeteer all about?
Puppeteer is about a boy without a head named Kuduro. He's under attack by the Moon Bear King.
Of course.
And his whole thing is that he uses other heads that he finds, which give him like some special abilities, which aren't like super robust.
So this is a knockoff of Kid Chameleon.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that. Yeah, it is.
Kid
But
Chameleon.
I wouldn't say it's quite like Kid Chameleon because the heads don't really give you special powers that you use actively. They're like they unlock things in the environment.
Gotcha.
And stuff like that.
It's like a single move you can use and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, it's also the aesthetic, the art style is what I think sets it apart for me because it's like gorgeous and it's meant to look as though it's on a stage basically. So everything's props, everything is like like pieces of the stage that you have to knock down. Everything like almost has that like feel of like almost like
A diorama.
I mean,
like
totally.
when I'd look by, it looks like there's gonna be curtains. Or when I'd watch Colin play, curtains swoop in and change the scene and come back out.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
it's
can
really
play.
cool.
I can play as a little wooden boy with a Triceratops head, which is all I've ever really wanted from a video
That's
game.
it.
That's
Jared's
true.
hanging it up now.
Yeah.
Can't do that in Grand Theft Auto 5, can you, Rockstar?
No, you can't.
It's
a lot of things you can't do in Grand Theft Auto 5.
It's a remarkable game,
I agree.
and it tanked clearly.
Budget price though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's $40, so it was like Sly, but Sly sold really well.
I think
so
it's 20.
Well, Sly had some name, cachet attached to it.
Right. I think it's 20 now on PSN, like right now.
Probably
I think
is. I mean,
it's
the
sale,
game tanked.
I'll
So
buy it.
and that said, it's one of those examples of a game. We talked about this with Starhawk and even Twisted Metal. It's like, why bother if you're just not gonna do anything with it? Like, why are you even making this game? If the game probably sold. God, if it sold worldwide 50,000 units, that's probably pushing it.
Is that bad? Huh?
Yeah. So, like in Japan, it sold like 5,000.
In all your walks you go, you have these developer sit downs. You talk to Sony heads for like hours on end, right? Have you ever talked to them about that? Like why?
Yeah, I've talked to
prognosticate.
people that make these games about why they make them and stuff like that. And not all this stuff is fit for publish. But
Sure. I didn't know what the feeling you get back from it.
Well, because they don't. With a game like Starhawk, like you don't expect that the game is going to. Like Starhawk sold, but like no one played it.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah.
Like that game requires. It's very similar to Mag. Like it requires people to play.
A
like
dedicated hardcore fan base to jump in and be playing nonstop.
And like with Twisted Metal was the most frustrating of them all because Twisted Metal was so easy to sell if they just did it right. And you know what? Like when we were doing the Rewind Theater for that new PS4 commercial for the players, or whatever, that's exactly the kind of thing that Twisted Metal needed, like on TV, real quick. Like. Remember playing it on PS1? Remember playing Black on PS2? Remember being in your college dorm room? Remember, play it with your son now. Now it's Twisted Metal's. Like it would have been so easy to do, and like they just let these games die. I don't understand that mentality, and it's annoying.
I mean, it's this weird thing where like you have this line where people are creating these pieces of art, like people, especially like something like Studio Japan, where they're cultivating creativity, like. Someone had this idea for Puppeteer and pitched it and liked it and was passionate about it, and it's really cool that it's able to go through kind of all the levels and actually come out even despite the bureaucracy. But then you realize it's also a business, and it's like they need to be making things that are, number one, going to be profitable, and number two, are going to like sell and catch on and become franchises and do all these other things. So it's like it's a testament to Sony that they believe in creativity enough that they can allow these games to come out, but it's also kind of sad because, yeah, like you said, like they almost shouldn't bother if they're not going to put marketing power into them and let them thrive.
Although we're sitting here talking like these kind of grand, beautiful failures are a new thing. But I mean, if we go back through video game history, all the way back to the 8-bit era, there are remarkable games that didn't sell at all that now we celebrate, and this may just be something that's going to be with us as a part of that business. Some of it's that at the beginning, who really knows what's going to happen? You sit there and you look at this, go, that's a great idea, let's make it. And about halfway through, you sit there and go, oh my God, we're not going to sell any of these. But by then,
See, that's
been going on for 20, 30 years.
That was my thing. Like, how much of it is we have to get it out before next gen, before this, but then you miss a milestone, or they have to shift a milestone, and so then you are just in this lose-lose situation, right? It's similar, like, why would you put work into that? How many videos or articles do we put up on IGN, right? They get run right off the front page. They go down the blog roll and they disappear, and nobody ever sees them again. And it's just like, well, we were working on it, and that was when it ended up that was our shop, but there was breaking news, or this happened, and some unforeseen circumstance popped up.
Yeah. I think, I know Gavin Moore, who's the guy who made the game, and I know that he's really happy with the game. And, like, I think that Sony has to be happy with the critical reception of the game, because the critical reception is, I think, 8+ on Metacritic, which is fucking awesome. So it's not their fault. It is an issue of, like, all the things coming together, and marketing is basically the problem. Like, you can market a game like that. Little Big Planet was marketed. You look at Little Big Planet, especially in the original one, it's a fucking burlap sack boy, and like it's on PS3, which is really struggling and all these things. But the game ended up selling millions of copies, so much so that Media Molecule was purchased by Sony. So there's a way to do it. It's just they don't have the fortitude to do it. And it's frustrating to see this happen with first and second parties at Sony, because it's very rarely the quality that's the problem in those games. Like. People call us PlayStation fanboys and stuff sometimes, and that's fine. This is a PlayStation podcast, whatever. But like the quality of the game is very rarely the issue. If you look at the first party, like they make good games, and if you look at the second party, they don't bother making shitty games, with the exception of like a few like that have come out that, like Layer's not a second party game, but that's an example.
Yeah.
Talk about Layer, Greg.
Didn't like Layer. Motion controls didn't
Let's not
work.
even rehash.
I had almost forgotten Layer.
A lot of people
I'll
have.
never forget. Gosh. So that's that. Killzone.
Yeah,
Killzone's rad.
Really good.
And we talked a great
We
deal
all
about
played
Killzone.
it. We all liked that one.
Yep.
It's the first great first-person shooter. Might be a little too late. Guerrilla Cambridge did a really nice job. The game's beautiful. It runs Killzone 3's engine, which is remarkable.
I mean, there are moments in that game where I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is running on Vita."
Yeah.
Like, and I like sincerely, I say that. Like, I mean, there are moments I was like, "This looks so good. It looks as good as Killzone 3 at some parts."
Yeah,
that is insane.
I liked playing it because I always felt like a badass. Like, I think there was something about the AI where I felt like I was playing on normal. I could still run up on them and melee them and move to the next guy and do it. And I wasn't getting into frustrating deaths, which usually are the problem I had with first-person shooters.
Totally agree. And also, the touchscreen stuff isn't annoying at all. Like,
Right. I
mean,
really liked the hacking minigame. I thought that was great. Yeah, I'd love to keep. That was a great use of the touchscreen in a way that made sense.
Yep, I agree.
There you go, AJ. Hope you're happy. We talked about the two games. Now we're going to get back to Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, and then, I mean, to just expand upon this thing, I'm worried about Tearaway too for the same reason. I mean, Tearaway's going to come out and looks really cool.
Yeah, we got Tearaway, and like that game. There's an issue with that game too. The thing about that game is Media Molecule made it, so there's no question really of like its quality. It's probably going to be good, but yeah, it's like, what do you do with that game? How do you sell that game?
Especially right now when there's so many things coming out.
Tearaway is a game like Killzone that will sell to people that own a Vita, and that's basically it, I think. So depending if a very small team worked on it. Media Molecule was working on something else.
Right.
So if costs were in control, that game cost $10 million to make. They'll easily make that back.
Yeah.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.